In the previous video, I referred to 10 Little Indians and its Whodunit break, where viewers are invited to guess which of the two remaining characters is the killer. What I didn't mention at the time, and the aptness of that omission will become clear, is that following the break, the killer turns out to be a third character who was previously faked their own death.
I convinced the doctor that to unmask Mr. Owen, I must appear to be the next victim. After that, no one could suspect me.
That reveal makes 10 Little Indians an even more pertinent precursor to the postmodern slasher film. It invites participation in a guessing game that's structurally skewed by misleading information and misdirection. That approach is central to many postmodern slasher whodunits, where the killer's identity isn't just concealed, because that's a basic requirement of the whodunit. In these cases, key information that would be necessary for viewers to reasonably deduce the killer's identity is explicitly kept from us. Consider the Scream series. When the killers unmask themselves across the franchise, they habitually disclose information that was previously inaccessible to us. That limited epistemic access is itself underlined in the reveal sequences. Rather than being unmasked by others, the killers disclose their own identities. In this series, the effectively indecipherable nature of the murder mystery is typically punctuated when the killers reveal themselves and the way they speak about that revelation.
Surprise, Sydney.
The surprise, it should be noted, is aimed equally at the film's audience. Scream 2 offers an especially stark example of how misdirection operates in the postmodern slasher phase. One of the killers, Mickey, casts doubt on another character, Derek, by naming him as his partner.
Since Derek here disappeared on my ass, I've been on my own all fucking night. Thanks a lot, partner. Come on, Sid. I gotta have a partner. I couldn't have possibly done this alone.
What? Derek.
Sid. Oh, no, Sid. No.
The accusation carries genuine weight because it rests on what viewers already know from the first film, that Sydney and her friends were attacked by a duo, one of whom was her own boyfriend Billy.
You really want to trust your boyfriend?
Don't you know history repeats itself?
Mickey's suggestion gains further traction from Sydney's previous misplaced trust in Billy, the retrospective certainty we now have about Billy's guilt, and our present uncertainty about who Mickey's accomplice could be. The film leverages that doubt explicitly.
Boyfriend killer.
Sid, the man is lying! Untie me! Sid, untie me.
What do you think, Derek? Sydney experiencing some deja vu?
During the sequence, tension is ratcheted for the viewer as much as it is for Sydney herself. What follows is deliberately engineered as a false reveal. Mickey announces that his partner is about to make an entrance.
Could that be the mystery guest waiting in the wings?
Told you I had a partner, Sid. Surprise cameo just for you.
Then Gale enters, and an edit cuts away to Sydney, and that break insinuates that the reveal's complete.
Gale.
The sequence then cuts back to Gale for a beat before Mickey's real partner, Mrs. Loomis, enters through the doorway, holding Gale at gunpoint. The way the scene's engineered is to give us a pause between Gale's entrance and Loomis's entrance. That pause is long enough for the viewer to incorrectly and probably loudly and publicly congratulate themselves for identifying Gale as the killer by shouting, "I knew it!" The sequence illustrates a broader structural principle. Although viewers are goaded into hypothesizing about the killer's identity throughout Scream 2, the reveal can't be properly deduced from the evidence presented in the film. Mickey and Mrs. Loomis only make fleeting appearances across the film, while suspicion is directed towards prominent characters like Derek. Loomis's unmasking is especially duplicitous because it depends entirely on having withheld the fact that she's Billy's mother. Without that information, her motive is simply impenetrable. And yet, unlike 10 Little Indians, Scream 2 self-consciously flaunts its narrative sleight of hand.
Mrs. Loomis? What?
Billy's mother! Nice twist, huh? Didn't see it coming, did you?
Although he's literally addressing Sydney here, the statement is secondarily directed at the viewer as a participant in the murder mystery guessing game. The mechanism inverts the logic that I laid out in part 1, that slasher victims are typically thought of as idiots for failing to comprehend the obvious threats around them. Here, the final girl, who traditionally survives precisely because she's more alert than her peers, and also the viewer, whose perspective is primarily aligned with the final girl's, are made to seem foolish. Note that, just as I laid out with the Friday the 13th example in part 1, that apparent foolishness isn't rooted in negligence. It's just that the information needed to identify the source of danger simply isn't available. Of course, misdirection is a routine element of the whodunit. As Valentine's director Jamie Blanks notes, murder mysteries must be carefully constructed to shape the viewer's expectations.
Here you've got this challenge of making a movie where every day you're working and you know who the killer is, but you've got to hide it from the audience somehow. And so, I mean,
it really limits what you can do.
That must have really worn on you.
Anytime the killer appears in the frame, I have to account for the whereabouts of every single person who's a red herring in the movie.
Right.
In order for that to be a mystery, you have to think it's him and him and him, and maybe it's her.
Right.
It's all about revealing certain information at key points, and you want to give them enough information so the red herrings play.
Sylvain White, director of I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, provides a more detailed account of how that works in practice. The killer's initial appearance is deliberately outlandish. It's designed to make viewers question whether the film will simply be cheesy and stereotypical.
So here the idea obviously is to sort of trap the audience, make him think that this is really cheesy.
White employs cliches across the film.
It's a little contrived, but again, because of the genre, then you can allow yourself to do these kind of things. These are sort of the classic ingredients of these sort of, teenage bubblegum films, horror films. The goofy blonde Kobe, who's the sort of archetypical jock. Here are two archetypical cops, always too late. We have our two sort of archetypical bimbo friends.
By evoking those cliches, viewers are led towards assuming that the killer's identity will be obvious. Then, White's cast doubt on many of the characters to make it difficult to guess which of the cliched suspects might be the killer.
This is obviously another scene where we try to point the finger now at the sheriff. He's acting a little weird. He's not quite over his son's death. He's somewhat eerie. I gave a little bit of weird direction to him in this scene where I felt, I almost want to feel like he's perverted or something, like something's wrong with him. So this next scene is to really sort of decoy the audience real quick in terms of who Roger is, and perhaps he's the killer.
Decoying the audience is the bread and butter of the whodunit. But in the postmodern slasher phase, we see narratives being organised around that dynamic, and even reflecting on that dynamic as part of its themes. One of those films is Cry Wolf, and as the title makes clear, the film is about how lies obscure the line between truth and hoax. In the film, the protagonists, a group of boarding school students, play a lying game.
The object, avoid suspicion. Manipulate your friends, eliminate your enemies. Have a seat. I'm gonna secretly pick one person in the group to be a liar, the wolf. And everyone else is a sheep. If you can find the wolf and convince the rest of the group to vote him out, then the money is yours. If the wolf survives, the cash is theirs.
So how do we find the wolf?
Figure out who's lying.
When a student called Becky is murdered, the group's leader, Dodger, suggests playing the game on a larger scale with the whole school.
They're the sheep, and we're the wolves. Let's convince them the murderer's on campus, and he's just getting started.
Our lead protagonist, new student Owen, specifies the wolf's identifying markers.
He needs a name.
The wolf.
That works.
Okay, what else does every good mass murderer have?
Something that he wears. Something that covers his face, but anyone can buy.
Pantyhose.
Is he robbing a bank?
My old roommate, he used to go hunting. He had one of those neon ski masks. What's his weapon of choice?
Well, the girl was shot.
Yeah, but a knife would be scarier.
From that point, the deceit starts to escalate.
I read the email. It's happening. If
just like it did at that other school. The first girl, she was shot in the face. I forwarded
it to my brother. He sent it to everyone he knows.
Owen begins receiving threatening messages from Wolf. Various pranks ensue, so one group member, Mercedes, dresses up as Wolf and stages a mock attack on Owen.
Drop the weapon! Drop it!
It's not real! It's just joking.
And when the group apparently hear Mercedes being attacked, they find what they take to be Randall's corpse in the school's chapel.
Oh my God.
Owen then concludes that the hoax was read by Becky's murderer, who is now copying the same modus operandi that they invented. He believes that the mass killer is their teacher, Rich.
Mr. Walker. You did this, didn't you?
Why don't you give me the gun, son?
You killed them. Mercedes, Randall, Lewis. Dodger.
I don't know what's going on. No, listen to me.
Don't lie to me.
Your friends are probably just screwing with you. Give me the gun.
And in a confrontation with Rich, Owen shoots and kills him. It's then revealed that Randall and Mercedes are actually alive. The entire setup was just another prank.
We were trying to scare Owen and Mercedes because they got everyone in trouble before. Listen, we didn't think that anything was gonna happen.
How could you let Graham do that to me?
Baby, I didn't even know about it till I left the chapel.
In the film's closing moments, Owen realizes that Dodger masterminded the scheme in order to frame Rich for Becky's murder, which she actually committed.
You murdered her,
Well, the girl was shot.
and then you planted the gun
I've got something I should go do.
and told me where to find her.
Look at his desk.
I was your guy.
Someone's just trying to scare you.
From the moment we met,
It's a small school. Word spreads fast.
you planned it.
A flashback then confirms his deduction, showing Dodger shooting Becky. It uses a 4-frame insert, illuminated by gunflare, to momentarily replace the ski mask-clad wolf figure with Dodger. The plot of Cry Wolf layers pranks and deceits to the point where Owen can't determine whether any given threat is legitimate, let alone identify who's responsible. The viewer's deductive ability is also constrained by the narrative's epistemic alignment with Owen. We only gain access to information as it's revealed to him. Dodger's guilt remains hidden from us until the very end, because she's been manipulating Owen from the outset. In that way, the film underlines something significant about the nature of knowledge itself, the extent to which it's assembled from other people's testimonies, meaning that we rely on others to be sincere. The game demonstrates that other people are unreliable sources of information, either because they're fallible, spreading the hoax as if it's true, or because the limits of one's knowledge can be exploited by bad actors, just as Dodger does with Owen. There's also a layer of situational irony at work in Cry Wolf. Owen initially enjoys the thrill of knowing something that others don't, that the rumour is fabricated even though his schoolmates believe it. But even though he helped to construct the fiction, he comes to believe in the wolf himself. Then the irony deepens. After inventing a campus killer, Owen unwittingly becomes one, shooting Rich. That irony is then compounded by the fallout. Having killed Rich, Owen's role in creating and spreading the original hoax is exposed, so he loses his credibility. When he finally works out that Dodger is guilty, he can't expose the truth.
Honestly, Owen, even if that were true, who would believe you?
Dodger's scheme depends on misdirecting Owen, but the deeper epistemic uncertainty generated by his situation allows her to evade justice. Cry Wolf presents an extreme but telling case. It gives us a whodunit in which working out the answer to the mystery is effectively useless because Owen can't act on his deduction.